Are you ready for garbage? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Raw on Netflix definitely gave you a lot of that last night. Okay, now, first of all, right, obviously, I don't think that Raw on Netflix was the worst show of all time or one of the worst ever, but to sit there and say that show was anything above mid is honestly egregious. I'm honestly shocked I gave it a 6 out of 10 because it really is like a 5 when you really think about it a little bit more, and the more I talk about it, it may get even lower. But the point of this video is basically going to be talking about the fact that I think that Raw on Netflix may have just killed Wrestlemania 41, and you're probably wondering what I mean by that. We're going to break it down and go piece by piece of what I'm trying to say. Now, the biggest problem is that obviously everybody, just like every wrestling fan in general, wants to have a great WrestleMania season, and we all want to have a great WrestleMania 41. Everyone knows these things. However, certain things were kind of set in place last night, and certain things were taken out of place last night that I feel like could make a lot of confusion and just very much just disarray of nonsense leading up to Mania 41. And we're going to start off with what happened in the first part of the show, because the point of this video is basically describing why I think that multiple events that took place last night are going to ruin our hype and probably the quality of WrestleMania 41 season and Mania 41 in general. Because after last year's generational run up to Mania 40, I'm expecting this year's WrestleMania 41 run and the Mania 41 itself to be even better than last year. But obviously, I know deep down Mania 41 is not going to be better than Mania 40. Let's just be honest with ourselves. But hopefully it can be at least, around the same level of quality. Anyways, let's go ahead and break down the first piece of why I think Raw on Netflix just killed the Mania 41 season. Now, number one, The Rock last night was an absolute embarrassment. I don't care about, he has to be corporate, he has to be nice, it's globalized to the whole entire world, you know what I'm saying? He has to have a good image. I'm not trying to hear any of that. This is pro wrestling. If you want him to be a good guy and say great things about the company and thank people, just get John Cena to start the show and go out and do that. That's a John Cena kind of thing to do. That should not be a Rock kind of thing to do. Last night we got corporate Dwayne Johnson coming out and backstage, which this is just egregious. He's shaking hands, he hugged Cody Rhodes, and he's having a libation with Cody Rhodes. What is happening? How is The Rock, who just was bloodying this dude up, beating the crap out of him, and destroying this dude 8 months ago in Mania 40, and told him, hey, I'll be back, I'll come back. And now all of a sudden, The Rock is sitting there, and this dude is having a libation with Cody Rhodes? What? I just don't understand this stuff. I don't care if he was out of character. The only way to get out of this is if The Rock was just playing, an out-of-character role last night specifically for the opening show and then proceeds to turn heel and be a massive heel for Cody or for Roman going forward to Mania 41. But if not, what in the world happened to the final boss? The final boss is part of the reason Mania 40 season was so special last year. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it just doesn't make any sense. Anyways, after this happens with The Rock and all the nonsense he was doing with Cody Rhodes, the fact that he acknowledged Cody Rhodes for quote-unquote carrying the company for a year, it's egregious. Now it makes me question, is this dude even going to be at WrestleMania? If he's hugging Cody Rhodes, he's hugging Roman Reigns and shaking his hand, everybody on the planet probably thought, including myself, thought that The Rock was going to just rock bottom Roman Reigns or beat the crap out of him or turn on him. But instead, he just shook hands, hugged him, said I love you, and gave him the Ula Fala, and that was it. That was it. At least they left the door open for a potential Rock and Roman match or a potential, Rock and Roman feud or something like that. But Rock and Cody, if they start feuding again, I genuinely would not, it wouldn't make any sense anymore. You hugged them. You said, say hello to Mama Rhodes for me. All these good things about this guy who you were just trashing 8 months ago. I understand you have to be out of character in certain moments, but that's in interviews and stuff like that, not in the actual ring. Stick to being a heel and actually do your job and play the heel role. If he doesn't want to play the heel role, then fine. Ride off into the sunset and just be done. He had a great Mania 41, I get that. But what I saw last night from The Rock was utterly disgusting. Just straight up. It was egregious. It ruins the aspect of kayfabe and all the. It's not even about kayfabe, actually. Nobody cares. I don't even care about that right now. The biggest problem is that the story was supposed to continue in somehow, some way. But The Rock came out and didn't further the story at all. So I just don't understand what the thought process was with this. And this leaves us position now for Mania 41 season. What is Roman Reigns going to do? The big build was for Roman Reigns to potentially fight The Rock at this year's WrestleMania in the big lights in Vegas in the Night 2 main event. That's what we all wanted, and that would be the biggest possible, biggest money match. And it would be the most entertaining build to the Mania that we've seen in probably since last year, maybe even something before that. You know what I'm saying? It was going to be a good build, and it would have been very fun to watch. Big name match. However, if Roman Reigns is not going to have that match, what is he going to do now? Seriously, he's not going to fight Solo. That's already done. He's probably not going to fight Cody for the third time. He has no gold, so he's likely not going to fight John Cena. I mean, what's the process here? And I've heard rumors that he's going to fight CM Punk, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Rollins and CM Punk Part 3 is probably going to be what we get at WrestleMania 41. So, what is Roman Reigns going to be doing? Does anybody know? I mean, what Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu in an I Love You Solo match? You know? I don't understand the thought process here, man. And if Roman doesn't have a big name match, then there's no point of him even being on the card. Roman Reigns is at the level now where this dude should only be fighting big name wrestlers or some of the biggest wrestlers on the planet now. He shouldn't be fighting against mid-card feuds. Like, you know how some years, like over the last decade, you'll find like Seth Rollins in like an Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania, or you'll find Drew McIntyre in an IC belt match, or you'll find some other dude who's like an upper mid-carder in like a US Championship match, just floating around in obscurity. That's not Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is suited for main events only. That's literally it. He's been in 9 Mania main events for a reason. You know, that's what he does. So having him snoop down and do some like mid-card level feud, it's just not going to work. It's going to be egregious. And then Cody Rhodes, if he's not fighting a heel Rock, and it looks like he's not going to be fighting a heel Orton at Mania, what is he going to do? You know, him versus Cena, I mean, you can make a story out of that, but is it really going to be great? I would have to see it for myself. Anyways, after that, now let's talk about the next problem. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre are officially losers. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre have the same character, and we're going to talk about Drew in a second, okay? So they're the same character. All they do is talk and talk and talk. I can't stop thinking about Punk. Cody, you carried the industry on your back, and I don't know if I could do the same thing, even though I did it during COVID and helped out along with Lashley and Roman and Orton and all the other people. I don't know if I can do this, so I'm going to suck up to you because I can't stop thinking about Punk. What is that? And then he hates the bloodline, goes out, loses to Jey Uso, barely beats Sami Zayn. He loses to Jey Uso on a roll-up. And then on top of that, Seth Rollins, I have the eyes of fire and the heart of rage and anger, and I'm going to burn you to the ground, CM Punk. And then he goes out last night and gets beat by CM Punk, who said himself, because for some reason everyone's a big old Punk defender and just supporter at this point. So I just have to say this. I like CM Punk too, but he said himself his body is failing him sadly. You know, Punk is getting older, and he's at that age now where he's not as good in the ring anymore. He doesn't have the same explosiveness, athleticism, quickness, just like any older wrestler. This is stuff that happens to everyone who ages in the ring. But with that being said, last night, Seth Rollins hit at least 4 or 5 finishers, right? He hit 2 or 3 stomps and hit 2 or 3 GTSs. He had a pedigree on the announce table too, and he had a pedigree back in the ring, and somehow, someway, Punk kicked out of like 3 of those. He put his leg on the rope for the other, and the first finisher, he just had the wherewithal to roll out of the ring. And then CM Punk, Seth hits his superplex, right? Punk takes the superplex, gets up again, because Rollins pulls him up, and then just picks him up for a GTS and hits him with it, and he's knocked out. How is this possible? I don't understand this logic anymore. If Seth Rollins wants to be taken seriously with his heart of anger and rage, but then he hits 5 finishers and 2 pedigrees, and then all of a sudden he hits a big superplex, it gets easily no-sold, Punk picks him up and just GTSs him after, and Rollins is knocked out after 1 GTS. That's it. He hits 5 finishers, goes out of the woodwork, hits a superplex, hits pedigrees, all this other stuff, and it takes 1 GTS for Rollins to be knocked out cold? But I'm supposed to take this dude seriously? What's the point? Where does Seth Rollins go from here? If you hit that many finishers and that many signatures and did all this stuff, out-wrestled him in the ring clearly, and are clearly better in the ring at this point, and you still got knocked out after 1 move, how am I supposed to believe that Rollins is ever going to beat Punk again? Or at all? He's never going to. The booking doesn't dictate that, and for some odd reason, CM Punk is Superman now. You know, it's different if they're both taking 5 finishers and Rollins kicks out and then takes 2 more signatures, rolls out of the ring, and then puts his leg on the rope for a GTS again or something like that. But instead, he's just knocked out after 1 GTS. His body knocks down, he's flopped over like he's dead. I mean, I don't understand the booking on this. I really don't get it, and I thought it was absolutely egregious. But the point is, where does Seth Rollins go from this? You can't go challenge for the world title because that's the way the WWE hierarchy of power works. You have your WWE champion, Cody Rhodes, your world champion, Gunther, and then everyone else is going to be dictated in power rankings as being lower than them because they don't have gold. That's just what it is. So Rollins cannot go and be a world champion. There should be no reason for him to enter the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber, because if you can't beat a washed-up CM Punk who clearly knocked you out with one move, even though you hit 8 of them on him, or 8 different, finisher/signature moves on him, and you couldn't do anything, but he hits you with one GTS and you're knocked out. If you can't beat him, how in the world are you going to beat someone like Gunther, who's the world champion? Or beat someone like Cody Rhodes, who's the WWE champion? And we know he ain't beating Cody Rhodes because he lost to Cody Rhodes 3 straight times in 2022. So how do you lose to him 3 straight times? You lose to CM Punk after all this talk. You know what I'm saying? You got destroyed by Brunson Reed multiple times. What is the point here? You know? Seth Rollins has nowhere to go now. He has to sit down and do absolutely nothing, and just can keep on complaining, and then eventually he's probably going to lose again to CM Punk, and he'll lose the best out of 3, and then he'll be at a point now where he lost to Cody Rhodes 3 times when he came back to WWE, and now he's going to lose to Rollins lose to Punk in a best of 3 when Punk came back to WWE. And that's basically that. There's really nothing else to talk about with Seth Rollins right now, and it's egregious. Now Rollins has no direction because he has no sensible direction, I should say. Drew McIntyre definitely has no direction because he can't stop thinking about Punk, and he can't stop losing either. So that's that. Now on to the next piece, the women's division. First off, Rhea Ripley finally taking back a title that she never lost. Yeah, I'm going to take back my title that I never lost. Yeah! Anyways, Rhea Ripley took back her title that she never lost, so that's pretty cool for her. You know, I'm glad that this happened because I wanted this to happen. I'm done with this feud. I'm done with this story. But the problem is, now that I'm thinking about it, Liv Morgan's entire championship reign was all in service to Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio. That's all it was. She was never the biggest talk of her own championship reign, besides maybe after she won that Crown Jewel title match versus Nia Jax. But other than that, she was never the biggest talk of her championship reign. It was always about Dom, or the Judgment Day, or Rhea Ripley, or something like that. It's very just ridiculous at this point. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand it, man. I really just don't get any of these booking decisions. Rhea Ripley, finally, at least the feud is over, right? At least the feud is over, and Rhea Ripley did never lose. She never really lost a championship, right? So it is fair that she eventually gets it back, but it's about the booking of Liv's reign itself and the fact that Liv Morgan now has 0 direction. What is she going to do leading up to Mania 40? Unless Becky Lynch comes back and feuds with her, there's nothing for her to do. There isn't. She had a great feud that 90% of the roster will never have a feud to the level of depths of height and, hotness that Rhea and Liv were at in the summer. That feud was so hot that everyone was talking about it. It was massive. People were really engaged, all that stuff. Most wrestlers do not get a feud like that, and Liv got that. She got a long world championship reign, and she got to win the Crown Jewel title, which only 2 people have done, her and Cody Rhodes, and she did all this stuff in 1 year. So where does she go from here? She pretty much peaked out at this point, And with Rhea Ripley, she did all this stuff over the last 8-9 months. She had to vacate the title because of injury. She comes back, wins the belt finally after like a 6-month-long feud. You'd think she did all of this stuff just to lose the belt in a couple months at Mania 41? So we know Rhea Ripley isn't losing the belt anytime soon, so that makes any feud she has for the next year probably predictable and a little bit less engaging, just like her first title reign was all predictable, engaging, and simply didn't have the right opponents to compete with. But the Raw Women's division is still not good. And even if we get Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky at WrestleMania 41, yes, the match will likely be very entertaining, it will be good, and I would be down to see Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky. But the simple fact is that we know Io Sky is likely not going to win that match. So now it just renders all this stuff a little bit meaningless and useless. You already doomed Rhea Ripley's championship to the beginning. Do you see what I'm saying? I just don't understand the thought process behind any of the booking decisions. But at the end of the day, this is just where it is now with WWE. Not a lot of things really make that much sense, and it's very rare that you get an amazing payoff for a lot of these stories. Just look at the Final Testament and the Wyatt Six. The Wyatt Six were built up to for 3 or 4 months, and now we haven't seen them in 3 or 4 weeks. So there you have it. Same thing with the Final Testament. Oh, they're coming to take it all. All this stuff. They did nothing. The Pride with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits and all this stuff. 2024 was supposed to be their year. They did nothing, and Bobby Lashley left the company. Do you understand? a lot of stuff doesn't really get built off. Cody Rhodes is going to build up to finish his story. Finishes the story and now has a garbage championship reign. Gunther finally gets a world championship. Bad championship reign. Liv Morgan gets a championship reign. All this build up just to lose a match that she should have lost 3 or 4 months ago. And her feud and her build up and her championship reign was all about other people. You know, the long-term booking isn't working anymore. Because at least as far as I'm concerned, only you may have a couple big payoffs, yeah, here and there, that's great. Like the New Day stuff I thought was great when they turned heel. But again, you get one of those moments for every 5 horrendous moments. So, I mean, are you willing to trade that off? Or would you rather just have 3 good and 2 bad? Or 4 good or 4 above average and then 1 that's just trash? You know, you have to have some type of consistency mixed in with all of this, and you just don't have that. So now some of your biggest stars have 0 direction headed into Mania 41. The final boss may not even show up at WrestleMania 41, so that's pretty much that. And on top of that, you also have the simple fact that the women's division is aimless. Tiffany Stratton, right, she was there last night in the crowd with Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker doesn't do anything anymore. Tiffany Stratton doesn't really do anything at all. I'm glad she cashed in and won the belt. That was a great cash-in moment, but again, she's not contributing anything. Gunther, again, this is the last part of the video that I need to discuss. Gunther now is just sitting here, and he has not contributed literally anything to Monday Night Raw in like a month or 2. Literally. He doesn't wrestle. He doesn't cut live promos. He's never there in the building, and nobody cares about what this dude is doing. He hasn't showed up on Raw, and no one brings him up because the World Championship and Gunther himself are afterthoughts right now. And if you disagree with that, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. You know, it is what it is. And then obviously, you know, stretching down to the other stuff that was obviously put in question last night, it's very evident that people like Logan Paul, you know, your upper mid-card talents that are really good, you know, your Logan Pauls, your Io Skys, you know, even Bayley, who I think is an absolute jobber right now, but, you know, even though with that, she's still probably going to head over to Raw and maybe do a program with Rhea Ripley. You know, something will happen with that situation. Everyone knows this, right? But upper mid-carders like that, you know, like I said, Braun Breaker, you know, your LA Knights of the world, Carmelo Hayes, you know what I'm saying? People like this seem like they have absolutely 0 direction right now. And this is all 3 months out from WrestleMania. We know none of them are winning the Rumble. None of them are winning the Chamber. None of them are winning World Championship gold. And they may at best be able to compete for mid-card gold at Mania if they even get a slot or a match at WrestleMania or a feud leading up to it. Do you see what I'm saying? So now all the mid-carders have been relegated to just sitting down and doing nothing. We know Rhea Ripley's not going to lose the championship. We know Tiffany's not losing it anytime soon. We know Cody's not losing it anytime soon. We know Gunther ain't showing up to work, so it's impossible to lose the belt. Roman and Rock, I don't even know what's happening with that. CM Punk and Seth Rollins, who knows? Punk is likely not winning the Rumble or the Chamber. So what's the thought process? Unless they do Punk versus Cody, I guess that's a possibility as well. But what's the process here? You know? Everything is in disarray. No one knows what's happening. And on top of that, none of this stuff looks engaging or interesting. And we know how like half of this stuff is already going to play out leading to Mania. And it doesn't look that appealing so far. I hope to be wrong. And I want a great WrestleMania 41 season. And I want a great Rumble. I want a great Chamber. And I want a great WrestleMania 41 that rivals the likes of last year's WrestleMania 40. However, I don't know what things look like right now. I'd love to be wrong about all of this, but what I've seen so far has been a disaster. It's been disappointing, and quite frankly, I'm very confused at the thought process in the booking of it all. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts on Raw and Netflix and what you think it dictated for the events of the Mania 41 buildup and Mania 41 itself. Let me know what your ideas are for Mania 41, what you think could happen leading up to it and what the matches may look like. And let me know what your thoughts are on WWE as a whole right now. You know what I'm saying? With everything with the booking, Raw and Netflix being what I consider to be absolutely mediocre at best and all the other stuff that's taking place. But without further ado, I thank you guys so much for your support, man. I really do respect you. I appreciate you, and I love you. So thank you all for watching. I hope everyone has a phenomenal day, and as usual, peace out, one love.